the detectives are once again at a standstill because they two prime suspects ain't looking like suspects at all. Hey y'all, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Okay y'all, so these are the nails that I did this week, and of course they won't focus. Let's focus, guys. There you go. So these are my nails this week, and I like them. I do. However, I did this same thing in yellow a couple days ago, and I took them off, and I don't know why, and I like the yellow better. I do. The orange is cute, don't get me wrong, the orange is real cute, but the yellow was so much better. But it is what it is. We're here now, and these are my nails for the week, or for however long they decide they're gonna stay on my hands. Oh, and here is the picture that inspired these nails. I actually like the yellow. I wish I would have took a picture of the yellow ones because they were so cute. They was super cute, and they were so vibrant and just like, oh, look at that. These, they cute, but like they're not popping. Just a little popping, you know? Okay, so what's next? The last video that I posted, I don't know what it was about that video or how y'all saw me, how y'all found me, but y'all ran it up on that video. That video at this point has 8.6 thousand views, and I know that might not sound like a lot to some of y'all because some of these other channels, they be having hundreds of thousands of views or whatever the case may be. But at the moment, that is my most watched true crime video on this channel. So shout out to y'all because y'all been watching and y'all been like, I feel seen. So thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who be watching. And oh yeah, I just found out that my tia Yomaida watches my videos. So yeah, hey Yomaida. I'm not Dominican at all, but I do have a Dominican family. And I just found out that my tia be watching my videos. So hey tia. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into today's case. So it's 2015 and 30-year-old Tiara Thomas is living her life in Portage, Indiana with her fiance Martell Robinson and their kids. Now, they have 5 kids between the two of them, 3 of which are from Tiara's previous relationship. And then Martell has 2 of his own that are from a previous relationship as well. But I don't think his 2 kids live with him and Tiara. So in the house is just Tiara, Martell, and Tiara's 3 kids, and then I think Martell's kids come over periodically, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, Martell and Tiara treat each other kids like they own. So you might as well just say they got 5 kids. I mean, you know? And the 2 of them were madly in love, despite the fact that there was a pretty big age gap between the 2 of them, because Tiara was 30 years old and Martell was 20 years old. So that's like being born in 1990 and 2000. But like I said, that didn't matter to neither one of them because they was happy and they was planning they happily ever after. And Tiara, she was in full-blown wedding planning mode. Everything seemed to be coming together perfectly. But on November 18th, 2015, all wedding plans will be halted because on that day when Martell came in from work at around between 7 and 8 a.m., he found Tiara on their bedroom floor and blood was everywhere. So naturally, Martell calls 911 because at this point he's freaking out. His fiance is in a bedroom on the floor, blood is everywhere. He don't really know what's going on and he needs help. So first responders arrive as quick as possible, and when they get there, they note that Tiara has a faint pulse. She is cold to the touch, however, she is still breathing, and there's a potential chance that they could save her life. So they rush her off to the hospital while the detectives take Martell in for questioning. Now, in the interrogation room, Martell is crying, and I mean boo-hoo crying, distressed, distraught, all over, not necessarily all over the place, but he is definitely feeling the effects of what he just saw. But eventually he gathers himself enough to be able to answer the detective's questions. And first and foremost, they want to know what he was doing. Where was he at when everything took place? And the story that Martell gives the detectives is that on the day prior, so November 17th, Tiara's kids left the house and went to go stay with their daddy. And he picked them up around 5:30ish and, took them to be with him. And because they was about to be kid free, Tiara and Martell decided that they was gonna go on a date and spend some time together. So they went to dinner and then they went back home to chill for the rest of the night. But Martell had to leave at around 10 o'clock because he worked the overnight shift at his job. And so in order to get to work on time, he had to leave at 10 o'clock. And he did. And throughout the night while he was at work, him and Tiara was texting. And he said that the last text that he got from Tiara was at 4:56 a.m. And pretty much everything was normal up until around 7 o'clock a.m. when he left work. Because he said that it was at that time where he called Tiara pretty much just to make sure that she was up for work, but she didn't answer the phone. And that was a little weird for him because she always answered his phone calls. But he kind of figured that, okay, well, she don't have the kids today. Maybe she slept in. So he was a little bit like, that's weird. But at the same time, it's nothing to worry about. So he finally makes it home. And when he get there, he noticed that the door is unlocked. And once he realized that the door was unlocked, he was ready to fuss at Tiara. Because this is something that Tiara had done before. And he was about to get on her about her safety and, just, girl, don't be leaving the door unlocked. Lock the door when you go to sleep. So he said he go in the house ready to fuss at Tiara, but when he got to the bedroom, he noticed that she was on the floor, and his initial reaction was to go to her. So he goes to her and grabs her wrist, and he realizes that her hand is cold. And when he lifted her wrist up, a bullet casing fell from somewhere. It fell. And this is when he started looking around and he noticed that there was blood everywhere. There was blood on the covers, the walls, the floors, just everywhere. But he did notice that even though Tiara was cold to the touch, she was still breathing. And this is when he decided to call 911. I mean, he probably would have called 911 even if she wasn't breathing. But he did note that she was breathing and that she could potentially be safe. And so that was Martell's story as to how he came to find Tiara in their bedroom. And at this point, the detectives are pretty much like, okay, well, he's being very cooperative. He seems genuinely distressed, but they still have to cover all avenues to ensure that he is not the person who did this. Because as we all know, sometimes in crimes like this, the person who calls the police be the perpetrator. So they wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case in this case. And so they asked Martell for his phone, his clothes, and I forget what else, but they asked him for a couple of items just to check in and go through it so they could either rule him out or rule him in as a suspect. And Martell complied completely. He was 100% cooperative, gave them the shirt off his bag, gave them his phone, and anything else that they asked for, Martell gave them. So after all of this, they asked Martell, is there anybody who you know who will potentially want to harm Tiara? And his first response without hesitation was her ex-boyfriend, the father of her children, Kevin Campbell. Now, the fact that Martell had a name straight off the bat kind of gave the detectives pause, because it was like, okay, either he genuinely believes that Kevin could be a potential suspect, or he just trying to throw out a name right fast to get us off of his trail. So after divulging all of this information, Martell was free to go. However, before he left the station, they had to tell him that unfortunately Tiara did not make it. And once they told him this, he had a full breakdown. He cried. He hugged the detectives. He genuinely seemed hurt at the fact that Tiara didn't make it. But as distressed and distraught as he seemed, they still had to keep an eye on him just in case he turned out to be their guy. But in the meantime, they wanted to talk to Kevin, Tiara's ex. But before I get into Kevin's interview, let's talk a little bit about the dynamic of him and Tiara's relationship. So Tiara and Kevin met in high school and were high school sweethearts. And shortly after high school, they moved in together and welcomed their first child together and started building their little family. Kevin started working as a police officer. And Tiara, I think she worked at an accounting firm. I'm not 100% sure about that, but she had a good job as well. And she even went back to school. I don't know what she went back to school for. Oh my gosh. But I know that she was also taking some college classes, and her long-term goal was to eventually open up a daycare. So as the years go on, Tiara and Kevin's family grows a little bit, and the two of them end up welcoming 2 more children into their relationship. And from the looks of it, Tiara and Kevin was in this for the long haul. They were going to be lifelong partners, and there was no doubt in anybody's mind that that was true. However, 14 years into the relationship and 3 kids later, Kevin had not asked Tiara to be his wife. Now, I understand that this can be the dynamic for a lot of relationships. People be in relationships for forever and they never get married and they completely fine with that. Hell, I was in a relationship for 8 years and two and a half kids in, and I wasn't married and I was completely okay with that. Now, obviously we did end up getting married, but my point is, some people can be in long-term relationships, never be married, and they completely fine with that. However, Tiara wanted to be a wife. She wanted to be Kevin's wife. But like I said, 14 years and 3 kids later, it hadn't happened yet. And I don't know if this contributed to the breakup of the relationship or if other factors were involved, but Tiara and Kevin ended up calling it quits. And Tiara and the kids ended up moving out into an apartment of their own, and then Kevin stayed. I guess he stayed in the marital. No, they wasn't married. Kevin stayed in their home. But Kevin was able to pick up the kids and see them whenever he wanted to. And he did so on a regular basis. Now, I don't know how long after the breakup this happened, but Kevin ended up meeting a woman. And not only did he meet this woman, he met, had a baby with, and married this woman. I don't know if it was in that order. I don't know if he met, married, and had a baby, or met, had a baby, and then married. Nonetheless, he married this woman. And I can only imagine that that was a big ass gut punch to Tiara. She was with this man for 14 years. She gave this man 3 children. And he did not marry her. But then he just meets this other lady, has a baby, and then marries her. Like, sir. I mean, I guess, like I said, I can only imagine that that didn't make Tiara feel too good. But once she met Martell, she had found her happiness again. And this man was willing to make her a wife in less than a year of dating her. So he saw her value. He knew what she was worth to him, and he was ready to make her his wife. And Tiara was happy again. She had finally found her happily ever after, which was unfortunately cut short. So now back to Kevin's interview. The police bring him in, and just like Martell, Kevin too is highly emotional. Now, he's already been to the hospital and he already knows that Tiara has passed away. He don't gotta wait to the end of his interrogation like Martell had to. So he's highly emotional, and it makes sense because even though the two of them was broken up, this was a woman that he had spent 14 years of his life with and that he shared 3 kids with. Even though they wasn't together, he still didn't want to see her die, especially not like this. So he goes on and he tells the detectives about the dynamics of their relationship, about how they were together for 14 years, had 3 kids, yada, yada, yada. He said that the breakup was pretty amicable. They coexisted and co-parented very well. And he said that on the night of Tiara's murder, he picked up his kids around 5:30 p.m. He went home and he was at home for the rest of the night with his wife and his 4 kids. He said that throughout the night, him and Tiara was texting about the kids, about homework and getting them to school, which was pretty normal. And he said that he woke up the next day at around 5:45 a.m. to get the kids set and ready for school, and that he texted Tiara about, I don't know what it was about, but he texted Tiara and she didn't respond to him. But her not responding to him wasn't unusual, and he wasn't worried about it at all. He didn't think twice about it. So he takes his kids to school, and that was that. So the detectives asked him the same question that they asked Martell. So do you know of anyone who would want to hurt Tiara? And the first thing he said, without hesitation or without question, is her new boyfriend, or fiance rather, Martell Robinson. And so now the detectives are like, kind of confused. Not necessarily confused, but like, both of them highly emotional, both of them pointing the finger at each other. What the hell are we supposed to do with this information? So they set those two on the back burner for a hot second, and they go and talk to Kevin's wife. And when they talked to Kevin's wife, she was not shy about the fact that her and Tiara did not get along. But she said that it wasn't on her end, though. She said she tried to talk to Tiara. She tried to be her friend. She tried to, be cordial with her. However, Tiara wasn't really here for it. And she also said that she wanted the boys, Tiara's sons, in her wedding, but Tiara said no. She was not here for it. And I don't know if the boys ended up being in the wedding or not, but y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Like, if your long-term boyfriend break up with you, go marry and have a baby by somebody else, and this new step parent wants your kids in the wedding, is y'all gonna let the kids be in the wedding? Or is y'all gonna be like, no, absolutely not? Now, me personally, go ahead. That's your daddy's new wife. Be in the wedding. Be in the what? Be in the wedding. Enjoy yourself, son. As long as they buy the suits. As long as they the ones buying the attire. Now, if they try to exclude my kids, they not going. That's just what it is. But this new wife said that she tried, it didn't work. In this interrogation, the wife also said that Kevin was at home all night. She said that she had been up and down with their baby all night, and every time she woke up with the baby, Kevin was right there sleeping, snoring like he ain't heard this baby crying at all. So she verified his alibi. And so with his alibi verified, they now want to go and check on Martell's alibi. And he said that he was at work that whole night. And when they went to his job, they found supervisors and co-workers who could verify that he was indeed there from the time he had to be there until the time he had to leave. And so with both of their alibis seemingly verified, the detectives are once again at a standstill because they two prime suspects ain't looking like suspects at all. And so now they want to talk to Tiara's friends and family to see maybe they know something that these two don't know. And what they find out was that even though Kevin was now married with a new child and Tiara was in a relationship with Martell, the two of them had still been sleeping together post breakup. However, once Tiara got engaged and things started becoming really serious with her between her and Martell, she started cutting off access to Kevin. And he didn't like that very much. And once she started cutting off this access, anytime that she needed money for one of the kids, he would essentially say, you ain't getting no money out of me unless I get some pum pum out of you. And naturally, this pissed her off because you taking care of your kids is reliant upon me giving you booty. Sir, get the fuck on. So what she ended up doing was filing for child support, because prior to this, there was no court agreements, there was no child support put in place. It was more or less like, hey, the kids need something. If I don't have it or if I need help with it, I'm gonna ask you and you gonna give it. And once that stopped, Tiara said, oh no, we're going to go to court. And she ended up being granted $1,500 per month in child support from Kevin. And with all of this new information that they had just received from family and friends, this prompted the detectives to go look into Kevin's finances. And turns out Kevin was apparently down bad. And at some point, he had gotten his car repoed right out of the mall parking lot. Now, while you at the mall shopping and your car note ain't paid, beyond me. It's not like you was at the grocery store or something, because I mean, I can kind of understand that. Yeah, my car note ain't paid, but I still gotta eat, right? What you need at the mall that was necessary? I don't know. Anyways, got the car repo right out of the parking lot. So they started to wonder if this could be a potential motive, his financial situation, plus having to pay child support, etc., etc. So they started digging a little bit deeper into Kevin. And they found that at around the time of Tiara's murder, there was only about $7 and some change in his, I think it was his savings account and or his checking account. I really don't know which account it was in, but it was only $7. So like I said, the man was down bad. And about a week after Tiara's murder, they decided that they wanted to talk to Tiara's oldest son. Because remember, the 3 kids was at the house with him when their mother was murdered. And so they were hoping that maybe he could shed some light on whether his dad had actually left the house or not. He was only 11 or 12 at this point, but you know, 11 or 12-year-olds, they not dumb, they smart, they know what's going on. And so when they talked to their oldest son, he said that, yeah, he was at his dad's that night, but he can't say if anybody left or not because he was asleep. So he don't know if anybody left or not. But to his knowledge, when he went to bed, his daddy was there. So they're like, oh, okay, well, what happened after that? And their son said that on the way to school the next day, their dad stopped at a park and threw something away in the trash bin. And this is something that he had never done before. And he also said that before him and his siblings went to their dad's house, his dad was kind of asking about Martell's his schedule, and he had never done that before. And also, he told his son to make sure that he had his house key with him when he went to his house. And the son didn't think too much of it because he felt like his dad probably just wanted to make sure that he had his key so that he can get back in the house if he needed to. But in detectives' minds, they like, okay, you threw something away in the trash can. You never did that before. You asking about Martell's information and his schedule, and you asking your son to make sure that he got a key to his house, his mama house, before he come to your house. That kind of would explain there not being any forced entry. And that would also explain the door not being locked because you just murdered somebody and you run out the house. You're not thinking about locking the door behind you. So in the detectives' minds, little red flags is just flying everywhere. So they go to this park to try to recover whatever it was that Kevin might have thrown away. But once they get there, they realize that the trash had already been emptied. And so they weren't able to recover whatever it was that Kevin had thrown away. But with all the little pieces that's starting to come together, Kevin is quickly rising to number 1 on the suspect list. And because of this, he was let go from his job as a police officer. Now, I don't know if it was like he was fired, or if he was just put on administrative leave, how you know how they do. But whatever the case was, he was no longer actively working as a police officer while this investigation ensued. So since they're looking at Kevin as their main suspect, they ended up getting a warrant to search his home. And when they did, they didn't find anything. They didn't find no bloody clothes. They didn't find no weapon. They found absolutely nothing, really. But what they did learn was that Kevin had a security system. And so they contacted the security company to see if they could gather any information for around the time that Tiara was murdered. And what they found was that even though Kevin and his wife said that he was home the whole night, somebody had left the house at 4:37 a.m. and apparently didn't return until 5:55 a.m. And this, for detectives, was a major red flag, and it was a major piece of evidence because that would have given him enough time to leave his home, get to Tiara's home, do whatever it is that he did to Tiara, go back home, and be back there by the time it was time to get the kids to school, right? And they also collect his cell phone records. And it showed that his phone pinged off of a tower that was close to Tiara's house at around 5:38 a.m. This was within a 1-mile radius of Tiara's home. Now, mind you, he lived in Hammond, Indiana. She lived in Portage, Indiana. These towers ain't gonna be the same towers. He couldn't have said that he was at home because his home tower ain't her home tower. You know what I'm saying? They didn't live that close. And as I was researching this case and I found out this little piece of information, I was like, you know, as a police officer, as a cop, as an enforcer of the law, one would think that he would be smart enough to know not to take his phone. But here we are. Anyways, all of the evidence that they gathered was enough for them to be able to arrest and charge him with the murder of Tiara Thomas. And on December 3rd, 2015, he was arrested. Now, he tried to run. He didn't make it very far. They caught his ass real quick. And he essentially ended up pleading not guilty, and a trial ensued in January of 2018. And he ended up being convicted and sentenced to 55 years in prison. But to this day, he still maintains his innocence and says that he will not rest until they find Tiara's murderer. But yeah, y'all, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Hola, ¿cómo están a todos? Everything seems to be... No. Fix your mouth. Everything seemed to be coming together perfectly. But on November 15th, nope. While the police and the detective, oh my gosh. So in the deterrogation, girl, what is that? You don't know. Covers, the walls, the covers and the sheets, they're the same thing. The cover, the walls, the floor. God damn it, you trained. Y'all hear that? Okay. The covers, the wall, the floor, and And Kevin ended up getting a job as a police officer. And then Tiara, I think she worked. What is that? And I don't know if this contributed to the breakup of the relationship. So just like Martell. And he said that even though they had broken up, it was a pretty amicable. And when they talked to Kevin's wife, she didn't make it. No, what'd she do? They decided, no. And with all this new information that they received from family and friends, the detectives decided this prompted the detectives to go look into, I was about to say Derek. Don't know who that is, but all right. But once they get there, they realize that, but once they get there, they realize that what do they realize? Oh my goodness. And this, for detectives, was a major red flag. And it was a major, why the yellow?